Hello and welcome to this webinar on achieving GS1 compliance with Produmex WMS. In this webinar, I will take you through the following agenda. First, I will tell you a few things about Boyum IT. Then I will give you a brief introduction of GS1 and explain the different GS1 identification keys. We will also see the GS1 128 barcodes and how these are applied on GS1 logistic labels. We will also explain how traceability based on GS1 standards can be achieved. And finally, we will have a demo of how the GS1 standards are applied in Produmex WMS for Sub-Business 1. First, a few things about Boyum IT. Boyum IT was founded in 1997 by Michael Boyum and is to date still headquartered in Denmark. The company now has subsidiaries and sales offices around the world and has been a certified sub-partner since 2004. So currently the company employs more than 140 international employees and is 100% focused on Sub-Business 1. Here you have a brief overview of the history of Boyum IT starting in 1997, with, say, the last milestone being the acquisition of Produmex in April 2018. And with the acquisition of Produmex solution portfolio was added to the Boyum IT portfolio. Now the portfolio of Produmex consists of certified Sub-Business 1 add-ons in the area of logistics and production management, and offers the possibility to combine the various modules to specific company or industry solutions. In this webinar, we will focus on Produmex WMS and how it helps companies achieve GS1 compliance. We will first give you a brief introduction about GS1. GS1 has evolved over the years. It started off in 1973 when the first barcode standard was established in USA under the name UPC, or Unified Product Code. In 1974, the first barcoded product, a packet of chewing gum, was scanned in a US supermarket. In 1977 followed the establishment of the EAN, the European Article Numbering Association in Brussels, Belgium. In 1990, an international article numbering organization was established, and in 2005, this led to the foundation of the global GS1 organization, which was bringing to the market one global standard for product identification. In 2018, GS1 is present in over 100 countries and has more than 1 million members. And the standards have evolved in many areas in the field of EDI, healthcare, business to consumer, data bar, RFID, etc. In this period, GS1 has evolved from an organization that was devoted to barcode standards to now a full-service organization of value chain standards and services. The GS1 portfolio is based on 4 pillars. On the one hand, there are the GS1 barcodes, which are the most known part of GS1. Then there is the GS1 electronic communication, which provides global standards for electronic business messaging. Then there is the GDSN, the Global Data Synchronization Network, which allows or facilitates the exchange of information between supply chain partners. And then there is the EPC global pillar, so the electronic product codification pillar, which provides global standards for RFID-based identification. Let us first have a look at the GS1 identification keys. There are 4 GS1 identification keys. One for trade items, which is called the GTIN, or the Global Trade Item Number. The logistic unit, which is called SSCC, or Serial Shipping Container Code. The location, which is the GLN, or the Global Location Number. and the asset, which is the GRI or the Global Returnable Asset Identifier. First, let us look at what can be a trade item. A retail trade item is a trade item that can be bought by a consumer in retail business, like a bottle of wine or a bag of oranges. But it can also be a standard grouping of trade items for trade and logistic purposes, like, for instance, a carton of wine or a pallet of a particular product. In fact, a trade item can be every item that can be traded between organizations, whether it's raw materials, medical devices, building materials. The global trade item number has a specific number structure, which consists of a GS1 company prefix, an article number, and a control figure. The GS1 company prefix first consists of a country identification of the country where the company is located, then an identification of the product, the company itself, and then an article number and a control figure. The article number can have a range of several figures depending on the range of products that a company has. If a company has many trade items, it will have a longer range of article numbers than another company. There are 4 GTIN number structures. One is the GTIN 14, so consisting of 14 characters, which is used for wholesale trade units. Then there is the GTIN 13, which is used for retail trade units, and the GTIN 12, which is the same code for retail trade units but used in USA and Canada. And then there is also a short version of the GTIN 8, which is used for small items in retail. A GTIN has a particular life cycle. Once assigned, a GTIN remains unchanged for the whole life cycle of the product as long as the basic characteristics of the product do not change. In case a product is no longer traded, the number FF is effectively blocked for 48 months. Next, we have the SSCC, which is used for the identification of logistic units. The definition of an SSCC is an individual unit that is composed for transport and storage, which has to be managed throughout the supply chain. And its identification key is the SCCC, or the Serial Shipping Container Code. Informally, this is also referred to as a license plate. The number structure of the SCCC is similar to that of the GTIN. It consists of a GS1 company prefix identifying the company and the country in which the company operates, and the range number, will depend on the number of logistic units that are produced by a company. The more logistic units a company produces, the longer the range number will be. Who will assign the SCCC? Well, that is the organization that prepares the logistic unit. This can be the manufacturer of the product, the wholesaler of the product, a logistics provider who distributes the product, or the distributor of the product. In practice, the SCCC is the key element for traceability. It allows to find traceability data about production batches that have been stored in databases. And it allows to establish the link between the physical goods flow, logistic units that are ready for shipping in stock or delivered, and the associated information flow, delivery documents or dispatch advices. Next, we have the GLN, which identifies location. The definition of a GLN is the identification of a company as a legal entity or a physical location or a functional entity in a company. And its identification is the GLN, the Global Location Number. And finally, we have the identification of reusable assets. This identifier is used for the identification of product carriers like pallets, crates and containers that can be reused. And the identification key for it is the GRI, or the Global Returnable Asset Identifier. So in summary, here are the GS1 identification keys again: the GTIN for trade items, the SCCC for logistic units, the GLN for locations, and the GRI for assets. Now let's have a look at the GS1 128 barcodes. GS1 128 barcodes are a representation of identification keys and additional information such as batch numbers, dates and quantities in a standardized format. This format is based on the GS1 128 barcode standard. The GS1 128 barcode standard is based on application identifiers, which are prefixes that are 2 figures long, and they define in a unique way the contents and the format of the data that follow. In the example above, you see that the 02 application identifier identifies the global trade item number, 15 identifies the best before date, 3103 identifies that this is a product with a variable weight where the decimal point has to be put 3 positions from the right, and 10 is the batch number. Between these application identifiers we then find the data, and depending on the application identifier these have a fixed or a free structure, are numeric or alphanumeric, and have a fixed or variable length. For instance, for a batch, the data will have a variable length up to a maximum of 20 alphanumeric characters in a free structure. Examples of application identifiers are 00 for the SCCC, which has a format of 18 figures, 02 for a global trade item number of a packaged unit, 10 for the batch number, 15 for the best before date, 310X for a net weight in kilo, and 410 for a GLN ship to address. In total, GS1 has defined more than 100 application identifiers, and the list can be consulted at the gs1.org website. It is possible to combine various application identifiers and their data fields up to a maximum of 128 characters in one barcode. Let us have a look now at the GS1 logistic label, in which the GS1 identification keys and the GS1 128 barcodes are used. The purpose of the GS1 logistic label is to unambiguously identify and assure the traceability of a logistic unit. For this purpose, GS1 has defined a number of rules and conventions, including which data to put on the label, the structure of the label, the combination of barcodes and text, and technical parameters such as the size of the label and the location on the pallet. Which data need to come on the label? The logistic unit gets an SCCC that remains valid throughout its entire lifetime, and this is the only mandatory information on the label. This SCCC builds the logical link between the information in the barcode on the unit and the information that is exchanged in EDI messages between supply chain partners. There are a number of optional data only for mono pallets, which are pallets which only contain one product. This can be the identification of the trade items on the logistic unit and their characteristics, date, batch, quantity or weight. This can also contain the logistic dimensions and the number of the shipment, the ship to address and the ship for address. For mixed pallets containing various products, the only mandatory data is the SCCC. This is how the GS1 logistic label looks like. At the top we can have free information like a from and to address. In the middle we have text and translation in human readable format of the barcode data. And below we have a GS1 128 barcode in case of a mono pallet, which identifies the product and its characteristics. And at the bottom we have the SCCC, which is mandatory. There are various types of logistic units. So we have standardized uniform pallets, which contain one product and also a standard way of packaging it. There can also be a non-standard uniform pallet containing only one product but not standardized as to its packaging. And then we have a non-standard mixed pallet, which is a pallet which contains various different products and is not standardized with respect to the packaging. For a uniform mono pallet, the logistic label will look as shown. It will contain the free information at the top. It will contain the human readable information in the middle part, and the barcode, so the SCCC and the GS1 128 barcode at the bottom. For a mixed pallet, the only mandatory data is the SCCC, as there are various products on the pallet. These cannot be mentioned on the logistic label. There are also guidelines for managing logistic units that contain several batch numbers or dates. If there are various batch numbers on logistic units, these cannot be mentioned on the label itself. They can only be included in the electronic message that is sent from the supplier to the customer. And they have to be mentioned at collie level, at least in text form and preferably in barcode. And then there is the aspect of various best before dates, which needs to be avoided. It's only the shortest best before date that can be mentioned on the label, but all dates can be included in a dispatch advice message that is sent from the supplier to the customer. And they are preferably presented at collie level, at least in text form and preferably in barcode. Let us now have a look at how GS1 supports traceability by the use of the GS1 Identification Keys and the GS1 128 barcodes. If you look at the supply chain from a primary producer to an end customer, at various stages in this process, the GS1 Identification Keys are used. A primary producer may not use global trade item numbers to identify his products, but he can be identified based on his global location number. All other participants in the supply chain will make use of the standard GS1 Identification Keys, including the global trade item number, the SCCC, and the global location number. When it comes to the sale to the consumer, we will only sell to him based on the global trade item number. Throughout this process, the various data carriers which GS1 puts at disposal will be used, including the GS1 128 barcodes, but also technology like RFID or data bar and data matrix codification. If it now comes to a problem, and a problem is detected at the end of the supply chain, we first have then a backward communication of the SCCC, the global trade item number, and if possible the batch number. At a certain moment, we will then identify the cause of the problem in the supply chain. And then it is necessary that we have a forward communication of SCCC, global trade item number, in batch number to remove the concerned goods from stock and shop shelves. This is how GS1 is a key element in assuring tracking and tracing of products throughout the supply chain. And finally, we will show you a small demo of how the GS1 standards in Produmex WMS are applied. In this context, we will first show you a number of specific GS1 settings in Produmex WMS, in the organizational structure of the system and also with respect to the item master data extensions. And then we will take you through the inbound logistics process, goods receipt and put away, and the outbound logistics process of picking, packing and shipping. and we will show you how throughout these processes we are able to ensure full traceability based on the GS1 standards. So let us have a look now at some GS1 specific settings in Produmex WMS for Sub-Business 1. So if we first look at the organizational structure, in the organizational structure we have a number of parameters that we can set. And one of the important ones in that respect is the SCCC range. So this will define the number of logistic units that we can process and assign a SCCC number to. So we have a start range and an end range. And we also see here what is the current SCCC number that we have available. Then we also have in the reports section, we have a number of reports that are GS1 relevant. We have, for instance, here a goods receipt label or an item label, a shipping label, a production label. So these are all compliant with the GS1 rules. And then we have a number of print events. So in the print events, we see here that we have a number of events that we have defined, like, for instance, the reception of a new logistic unit or the packing of a finished logistic unit. And upon the occurrence of these events, these reports will be printed. So the reception of a new logistic unit will trigger the printing of the goods receipt label. So that as far as the GS1 settings in the organizational structure. If we look at the item master data extensions, so if we look at a particular item here, let's take this item here, okay. So what we first see here is that indeed we have got here a barcode here, and that is the GTIN14, so the GS1 Global Trade Item Number. Furthermore, we have also indicated on this product that it's managed by batches, which will mean that during the receiving process, we will capture a batch number, and that will also be incorporated in a GS1 barcode. If we look at the Produmex tab, there we also see that this product has a best before date, meaning that when we process this product, the system will take into account the best before date, and it will register also the best before date in a barcode upon goods receipt. We've also defined here in the purchasing process that we can have a standard expiry definition for reception. So if there is no barcode identifying the best before date on the product itself, we will apply an expiry definition of 2 years to define the best before date of this product. So let us now proceed with the inbound logistics process. So if we create a purchase order in our system, so we select our vendor here, and we select a product, and then we select our chickpeas here, and let's suppose that we're going to order a full pallet, so 50 trays of this product. So we add the purchase order, and the moment that we have added the purchase order, it is available for reception. So if we turn now to our RF terminal, and we go to the purchasing button, and we will say that we want to indicate and execute a reception. We first select the receiving dock, where we're going to receive the goods. And then we have the filters that we can use. So we can use the barcodes. If there are barcodes on the product, we can scan these, and these will link to the purchase order. We can base ourselves on the purchase order itself. If there is no purchase order or no reference, we can still do a goods receipt, or we can also do a container receipt. So here we'll go through the order, and that is the order that I have just created. So I select on it, and now the system asks me whether I'm going to receive multiple logistic units containing the same product, or no identical logistic units. So in this case, I'm receiving a single pallet. So I click on no identical logistic units. I have no barcodes on the pallet so far. and select my product. And so here is my product. The system will now, in this case, generate a batch number itself, as it is configured that way. But if there would be a batch number in the barcode, then this would overrule this batch number. Then it generates the best before date based on the settings that we have defined in the item master data. And then it allows me to specify the quantity. So in this case, it's a full pallet of 50 trays. So currently the system is booking the goods receipt, and it's also generating now the SCC label, so the goods receipt label in compliance with the GS1 standards. So what you see here is in human readable format the information about this product, and we see the same information in barcoded format. So here we see the SCC, so the identification of the logistic unit, which is a newly generated number. And there we see the barcode, so the GS1 128 barcode containing the global trade item number here first. 15 indicates that this is the best before date. 37 indicates the quantity, so 50 trays of 24 jars is 1200 jars. And here we've got the batch number. So if we look now at sub-business 1, and we go to the goods receipt in sub-business 1, there we see that we have recorded also this information in specific tables in sub-business 1. So we see here the storage location code, the SCCC, the quality status code of this product. So currently it is in quarantine, the batch number, and the best before date. Okay, so if we look now at our inventory report, just a moment, the inventory report of this particular product. We select our product here, and there we will see that indeed, and this is the complete inventory that we have of this product. And here we have the pallet that we have just received, including here the mention of the SCC number. So we see here that this one is now registered on the receiving dock. Now currently the system has generated a put-away order for this pallet, so that it can be put away into the warehouse. So if we go on put-away and we go to receiving dock, he tells me that there is indeed a pallet or a logistic unit that needs to be put away from the receiving dock. So I scan the SCC, and then I can select a location. So I can select the default location, but I can also move it to another location or ask the system to propose an empty location. So in this case, he says, well, location B005 is still empty, so I can move it over there. And they are moved. And if I refresh my inventory report, I see that indeed my product is now located at this location. So that is the goods receipt process, in which you see that we have already applied the GS1 standards. Now let's look at the outbound logistics process. So if we look at a sales order, here I have created already a sales order for 2 products in the warehouse. And what you see now is that when I want to fulfill this order, I first need to create a pick list proposal. And on that pick list proposal, the system shows me which products have been reserved. So we will make a reservation of the products based on the batch number and the best before date. And this is what you see over here right now. Okay, so now I can release this pick list proposal to the warehouse, to the RF terminal. So I generate a pick list now. The pick list is generated and is sent electronically to the RF terminal, but we still have the possibility here also to make a printed copy of it if that would be of any use. Okay, so we have made the pick list now. Now I'm going to execute the picking, but before I show you the picking, let me now show you the labels that I have. So here I have printed the two item labels of the product that I'm going to pick. So here it's the label for my chickpeas with the GS1 128 barcode, and here is the label for my carrots and peas that I'm going to pick. And based on scanning this barcode, the system will identify if I have scanned the right product. So let's now start the picking process. I have my pick list here. I'm going to, now the system tells me what I need to pick, and then I can select a picking card on which I want to move these products. Okay, so I have selected my movable location, and now the system asks me to identify the pick location. Okay, and it will indicate me which product of which batch number and which best before date that I need to pick. So if I now scan the barcode of that product and it is the correct barcode, the system will allow me to proceed, and it will allow me to take the two trays that I need to pick. So these items are picked, and now I need to pick my second item, so my chickpeas. So here again, same procedure. I first select the location. Then I scan the product, and suppose that I would now scan the wrong barcode. The system would not do this, and it would tell me that I cannot pick from this batch number and best before date. So the system will force me to scan the correct barcode, and then it will let me proceed. So here I can now pick the two trays, and I have now concluded my pick list. So if I now go to my inventory report again, and I have a look now at the stock that I have on my picking card, then it shows me that indeed I have now two trays or 48 jars of both products on my picking card. If I now want to make this ready for shipping, I have my packing terminal on which I can conclude the packing process. There I indicate on which packing line I'm going to pack the goods. So I select my packing line 1, and now I specify from which picking card I'm going to pack the goods. So I specify my picking card. I say the logistic carrier on which I'm going to pack the goods, and here I see the two items that I have picked, and now I'm going to put these products all on one single logistic unit. And as we had explained before, if we have a mixed pallet containing the different products, we will have a different logistics label. So if I select them and add the items to the new logistic unit, you see that a new SCCC is generated here, and I can now finish this logistic unit, and the system will again now generate a shipping label. But if we look at that shipping label, you will see that it only contains the SCCC, as the GS1 standards stipulate that if we have different products on one pallet, we should not mention, or it is forbidden to mention, the various products on there. But still, the SCCC is the key to the traceability of all products on this logistic unit. So if we now conclude the shipping process, we go to Sales, Shipping. From my shipping doc 1, for my pick list, so here is my pick list. I have now my pick list here, which I can ship to my customer. It has been loaded, and it is now adding the sales delivery note in Produmex, and it's also generating here the sales delivery document that will accompany the shipment, and where you see that here we have the SCCC that is mentioned, and also the contents. So you see that we have different products in this SCCC. So if we now return to the sales delivery document in sub-business 1, and we ask for our last delivery, there we see the same information. So also here the information about the quantity of product, the batch numbers and the best before date, and the fact that they have been shipped out on the same SCCC. So finally, to show you also how this is registered in the traceability report, we open the traceability report for our particular product here. We look at our chickpeas, for instance, and we ask for a forward report. And then the system will show us all the batches of this product that we have processed in our warehouse. So you see them all here. And if we look, for instance, at this batch, so this is the batch that we have been using in this example. There you see that we have indeed a link here to the purchase delivery document. So we received this product on a specific SCCC. So here you see the SCCC on which we received these products. And we also have a link to all the deliveries. So here you see all the deliveries that we have made of this product. So we have one SCCC that we have received, and we have shipped it out to various customers, all on new SCCCs. And if we would have a problem with one of the SCCC, so if it would turn out that we would have a problem with one of the products on this SCCC, we could trace it back in the first place to the original SCCC, and we could track it down to then the other SCCCs that we have delivered to customers. So this is the way that the GS1 standards are at the basis of managing all the inbound and internal and logistics processes, and also in achieving traceability from goods receipt to delivery to customers. This will be the end of this webinar. I hope this has been instructive, and we are at your disposal if you have further questions in this respect. Thank you.